This is Minecraft, a somewhat popular game, and this is a factory, a somewhat popular industrial building. What if we could put the factory into Minecraft? Splat. And what if we could use that factory to make $1 billion? Well, that's what we're going to do today. So buckle up as we're about to get industrial. So welcome my friends to Forever Factory, a massive factory automation mod pack. Remember to subscribe and consider leaving a like, as you can always take it back later. So this mod pack has got 3 game modes that we can choose from. There's a skyblock version, but we've just done a skyblock with all the mods 9. There's a super flat version, but that's somewhat boring and a little bit, well, flat. So instead we're going to be going for option 3, a normal vanilla Minecraft world, but with an interesting twist. There are absolutely no ores generating anywhere in this world. We're going to talk about that more soon when we get our teeth into some proper automation. Now there are some final modifications we need to make in the quest book. We're going to set the world to peaceful until later when we're going to need a mob farm. We'll have permanent daytime with no rain, keeping inventory on death, and no phantoms. Later on we could disable the AE2 channels. We'll see how I feel about that a bit later, as we've never really done it without channels before and it could be interesting. Definitely easier. So to complete this mod pack to 100%, we are going to need to defeat 7 chapters, ending up with some pretty insane things, but we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves. Let's start with a humble new game adventure and go in search of some villages. It's going to be quite odd because there's going to be no mobs spawning anywhere, and when we take damage, oof, we don't need to eat. This is Hobble's first time ever playing on peaceful. Exciting times. Let's craft up a crafting table, stick up some sticks, and make a crafting table on a stick. That's gonna let us craft a boat, and let's see how good are we at ice boat racing. Ooh, this is fast. Don't hit the water, we're gonna sink faster than my YouTube metrics. Oh no, it's all going wrong. Okay, that's enough of that. Let's get over to that village. Wait, why are we sinking? Oh, powdered snow. I forgot you were a thing. Here's Hobble. This is why we are here. These wooden storage crates have a very useful function. We can fill them up, break them, and they retain their inventory. These are technically shulker boxes, and each house of this type has got 2 of them. Now, the loot chests in this mod pack are pretty weak. It's the items that spawn outside of the chests that are actually useful. Like this emerald. This one emerald is going to be very valuable to us later on. Sign? Are you okay? Obsidian, black lotus, and gold. Okay, maybe the loot isn't that weak. Oh, and yeah, Britannia is in the mod pack. And yeah, we are going to need to automate it later on. Much fun to look forward to. Diamonds! Choo choo! That's enough of that. Let me see if I can get out of these cold biomes. So I'll meet you over where we're going to set up our factory and some chapter 1 automation. Okay, I got distracted by another village, but look! New matter craft items here for free. These will be very handy later on. Especially this air compressor probably, and a fully charged wrench with 10 bars of pressure that I'm totally not going to forget to use. Ooh, and waystones, very handy. Look at that greenery. So now that the world is a lot more colourful, it is time to find some grassy plains, probably close to the ocean, that we're going to start work on our Forever Factory. That's the name of the mod pack. I'll settle for tucked up against a mountain near a river. I've cleared out a nice flat area for us to begin our journey to automation on. So yeah, we're not really going to focus on these challenges at all, as some of them are a little bit silly, like not using applied energistics. But we are of course going to be starting with chapter 1, the mechanical age. What's important right now is that no ores can generate in the world, and we can only buy them from this shop. We start in this world with $100, and we are going to turn this into $1 billion by the end of the video. We'll be doing that by selling various components, but to begin with, we will be selling logs that we farm by hand. The whole premise is that, much like Mechanical Mastery, we buy the raw resources, process them through automation, and sell the end product back for a profit. It's almost like it was made by the same developer. It was. So we have bulk storage for all of our junk that we got from the villages. We got a bunch of pneumaticraft bits, which we're probably going to need for chapter 2 or 3 or 4. And we have a barrel with our crafting materials that we'll craft with using this crafting station next to it. Our very first craft is going to be a hoe, and it's not for what you think. Here we have a basic manual tree farm, and if we twig whilst holding the hoe, we can speed up the tick rate of our crops or saplings. The trench means that we're not going to get hit or annoyed by any of the leaves. It's quite ingenious if I do say so myself. Once grown, we can use the FTB Ultimine key and break a bunch of logs all in one go. We then replant the saplings. Back to the shop, we can sell our logs and turn $100 into $4,000. Easy money. Holding down Control and Shift, we can buy a full stack of oak saplings for $1,600. Plant them, force them to grow, chop them, and sell. Nice! So we're going to need some basic resources. We're going to need to find andesite in world. We already have planks and we got some iron from the villagers. Oh, and if you're playing on the same seed as me, these are the coordinates of the mountain. If I'm a good boy, I will put the seed in the description. If not, let me know in the comments and I'll fix that. We're in a hole now, and we've got some andesite. Yeah, we're not going down there to get that. Let's try that again. Quest complete. / set home. What that means is now that we can use the /home to teleport back here instantly. Andesite alloy, my friend. It has been a while since we played together. 12 and 44. That'll have to do for now. So let's pop down some logs, strip them of their bark, and use some andesite alloy on them to make some andesite casing. Next, we'll make some baby cogwheels and some big cogwheels. What we're aiming for is these basic mechanisms, but don't let them hear you call them basic. Currently, the only way we can do this is via manual crafting, so we're going to need an enigmatic hammer, and we can make 8 of them, for now at least. We'll convert some of them over to andesite machinery, which is what we're going to need to create machines, much like arcane engineering. So we'll make ourselves a mechanical press and some large water wheels, and now we just need to find some way to set up some basic rotational power. Here seems fine. Water makes spin. We has the power. Large, large, casing, small, and repeat. Lastly, our press. Depot underneath, and you didn't see me do that, okay? Depot underneath. Easy! Ore ingots on the depot, and after a good bonk, they will be 4 iron plates. We'll use those to make a propeller and subsequently an encased fan. Depot, trapdoor, fan, hole, and water wheel. We can then work out which direction will blow, and we have ourselves a mini self-contained fan system. Surface lava, we're coming for you. Forbidden soup acquired. Pop this in front of the fan and we now have a fuelless smelter. Nice. We can buy a stack of raw iron and give it a test. Oh, it looks like we can buy andesite. No more mining for us. 64 iron ingots for no effort at all. My favorite type of effort. Let's make up an arboreal extractor so we can make a start on getting some resin, since it's very slow. $25 for a spruce sapling, and that's the resin production underway. 64 raw gold next, and while waiting I set up a bulk cooker so we can speed through drying our kelp for belts. 6-way gearbox? Yeah, that's a little bit cursed. Next we can set up a mechanical mixer and a basin. We can throw in a stack of iron nuggets and andesite to get a stack of andesite alloy, a much friendlier ratio. It just takes some time, and at the moment we have got plenty of time. It is the start of a new adventure after all, especially when the money is literally growing from trees. There we go, that's 1 bucket of resin and quest not complete. Oh, the coke oven, of course. Well, the resin gets bonked in the basin and that'll make rubber that we're going to need later. For the coke ovens, we are going to need a bunch of clay. Some of it will be bricks and some of it will still be clay. We'll need 27 coke bricks to begin with, but more like 1,000 very soon, so let's just make the maximum. Industrial hemp seeds to get hemp, and hemp makes string. String makes an engineer's hammer, and now we can build a 3x3x3 cube of coke bricks to make our first of many coke ovens. In goes coal, and very slowly, it's going to convert into coal coke and some creosote oil. And for a nice change, it's actually the creosote oil that we need. While I wait, I'ma grab some more clay from the surrounding area to make more ovens. Don't be like Hobble. It's not until a lot later in the mod pack that he realizes that you can just buy clay from the store. Silly Hobble. More coke bricks means more coke ovens. That's our first bucket of creosote, and that's quest complete. Arboreal extractor? Complete. Dang it, we need to hold a bucket of resin and we just converted it into rubber. Whoopsies. At least we can make some kiln bricks so we can start making some alloys soon. Well, this is interesting. Gold pickaxes by default have fortune too, so any of the block ores can now be mined for even more output. That's actually quite handy early game. We're going to use that redstone to make some torches so we can make a basic to iron upgrade and then to gold. This will let us upgrade this vanilla barrel into an epic sophisticated barrel. I really love this mod. It's super useful for having your crafting materials in, and we can even add in upgrades later on too. That's one gooey bucket of resin complete. Then we can smelt that rubber that we made earlier. That gives us cured rubber, which we're going to need a bunch of soon. Real quick, do you want early access to these videos before they go live on YouTube, and the occasional behind the scenes community posts, and the fancy Discord role? If so, consider becoming a channel member down below. By the way, you also get access to world downloads, but shh, don't tell anyone. Throwing copper and zinc ingots into an alloy furnace is going to give us early game brass. Copper, glass and cured rubber is how we're going to make copper casing. Bonk. Let's make up some fluid pipes, a mechanical pump, a hose pulley and a spout. Mostly for the quests to be fair. 3 copper dust and 1 tin dust gives us bronze blend, turned into ingots, and we can make up a bronze gear. We'll use that to make a fluid cell frame and then finally a fluid cell. This is going to be invaluable very soon. Right now actually, let's pop down a depot with a spout on top and then our fluid cell. If we set the output to push to the right, we'll use this to auto push our creosote oil since you can't use bucket on a spout. Planks on the depot and that'll give us some treated wood. And with that treated wood, that's the progression of chapter 1 complete. Though there is some optional items that we'll come back for later. Real quick, let's dump off our inventory as there's one quest that we need to do that wasn't meant for us. This quest here is designed for Skyblock players. So what we're going to do is we're going to claim the rewards and throw everything straight into the trash. With you as my witness, the items are gone forever. It is time for us to make a quack quack, since extra inventory space is real nice. We can even upgrade it to iron and even gold. So let's look at automating chapter 1 using sequenced assembly. Since we've got EMI installed, we can set default recipes and work out the costs of recipe chains. Probably not going to use this too much as we're kind of just going to automate every part of everything. Using some brass sheets, we can make up some hands and upgrade those into deployers. Alright, I'm curious, let's take a quick peep into the nether. That took so long to generate the nether, it's not even funny. What is going on with the performance in this pack? Maybe Skyblock actually does make a bit of sense. Anyways, looks like a generic Crimson Forest, except of course there are no hostile mobs. We do have a modded nether fortress though, so that's cool. The loot is pretty cool too. Goodness me, that's excessive. Ooh, this fortress has free create goodies. It's like fate knows exactly what we need next. It just keeps going. That was very useful, but it's time for me to go hobble together some items that we couldn't loot so we can start automating basic mechanisms. First, we're going to make the automation work, then we'll work on making it efficient. It's a good idea to get an idea of what is required of us first. But let's use that emerald from earlier to make a configuration tool so we can lock our functional drawers, and one of the diamonds to make the linking tool. So let's work backwards. We know everything finishes with some sequenced assembly on a belt. We need to create and supply 1 andesite alloy, 1 cogwheel and 1 shaft, along with a plank that we'll change out later for treated wood. So we can make 8 mechanisms instead of 4. That's actually really good. 1, 2, 3 deployers. Using placards, we can visualize what items we need in each deployer. I just want to mention though that you can do this with the Pretty Pipes mod, but I find it a little bit awkward and Create is so much prettier to look at. So we need a belt and a funnel going into each of our deployers. Let's take andesite alloy down to ground level and we'll pop a basin at the end with a mixer on. We'll have a belt on one side with a tier 1 buyer which we'll tell to continually buy andesite. A belt on the opposite side will be for iron nuggets. First, a simple compacting drawer with a brass funnel pulling out of it, which is what we're going to use to pull out the nuggets. We'll need trapdoors to hold in the lava, and a fan that'll blow on the no-no source. On the end, we'll need another buyer, which will be for the raw iron ores. Once powered, that will be our andesite alloy being made. Some of it will be stolen away and sent into a mechanical saw, using a brass tunnel to commit that crime. We'll round robin this so the alloy always takes turns on where to go. We can then hook that output up to our deployer belt. For the cogs, we'll pop on a deployer and steal some of the shafts with some more tunnels. This is my first time including a step-by-step build guide in this format. How am I doing? Is it going well? For the upper deployer, we'll need a belt to feed in some oak planks. Working backwards still, we'll finish with a buffer drawer, and then we'll need 2 mechanical saws. Then to prevent items from despawning, we'll feed into the saws with 1 final belt. Buyer on the end for the oak logs, and for the finished mechanisms, we'll have a cellar sitting off to the side with a funnel pulling into it. Then at the end, we will have a gold barrel collecting any salvage, since there's a 20% chance that we fail the construction and just make junk. I did forget to mention that I did make a paxel at some point. It's 3 tools in one, so it saves a few hotbar slots. It's pretty cool. Filter time! For the logs, the first filter is going to be stripped oak and then oak planks. The iron buyer should be buying raw iron, and the andesite buyer should be buying sticks. Just kidding, of course it's andesite. Well, we're spinning, but we're not making any profit just yet. That's because we still need to hook up our planks to our output belt. This is where we're going to use the magic of wireless functional storage. So for now, we'll pop down a storage controller here, and then using a linking tool, we will connect our plank drawer. Then we'll take a controller extension and pop that on the belt where we need the planks. Adding on a brass funnel, we'll add a filter for what we want to be extracted, and then we can link the extension to our controller. Ta-da! Oak planks. All we need to do later then is swap the filter for treated planks, and it'll pull out those instead. Our basic mechanisms are being made and they're being sold off. Time will tell if this is going to be profitable or not. And whenever we need some for andesite machines, we can just disable a shop temporarily. Easy. One thing worth mentioning is that we are using storage downgrades in our drawers to prevent us stockpiling 2,000 of each resource. That would be quite expensive. So for the treated wood, we are going to need a lot of creosote oil. That means even more coke ovens. The annoying part is that the coke oven requires us to send them coal. We could buy coal ore and smelt it into one piece of coal. That sounds expensive. Ideally, we want to use the mechanical squeezer from Integrated Dynamics, which gives us at least 6 coal pieces, but it does require some RF to run. Generating power early game though is quite tough. The power mod is off limits as that's going to need us to get through some more chapters. There's a stone generator, but that costs an alternator to make. But that alternator needs the next tier of mechanism. For that, we're going to need a compressed iron gear, an invar rod, and some lava. The compressed iron we get from explosion crafting some iron, so it might actually be worth crafting some manually to get some power on the go. Something like this should do the trick. And remember, everything we're doing so far is temporary until we progress through to some better tech. Oh, and as you can see, we're already up to $200,000. So essentially now we have enough money to burn. If we wanted to wait around and literally AFK, we could get millions of dollars, and that should probably be nerfed. I have added some gear ratios to speed up the mixer as the bottleneck was actually andesite alloy. Now it's coming in at a reasonable pace, But the next bottleneck is this saw here. Might fix it later. So from village loot we did get 48 compressed iron, but before we make gears we should probably check out the quests. It first wants us to make an explosives permit, which is just 8 mechanisms and a diamond. Sell it to the shop and get jump scared by the overused achievement noise. We can now buy tiny TNT to complete that quest. Now we can turn the iron into gears without ruining quest progression. 10 gears will make 10 compressed mechanisms. Nice. The invar is made in an alloy kiln from iron and nickel, which we can yeet into a rolling mill to make the invar rods. Gears in U, rods in U, add in some basic mechanism and it'll get pressed through the deployers and spouted on with lava. 100% success rate, so that is our first compressed mechanism. Yay! That unlocks the time in a bottle, which we're probably going to need to charge up for the mid-game. I am not looking forward to working through Pneumatikraft again, but we kinda need to do a lot of it very soon. So much fun. We've also unlocked the pipes mod it seems, but that is very expensive right now. Alrighty then, it is a new day and I think we are now ready to work on some power generation. We hit $1.5 million, so money now really means nothing, which is kinda sad times really. I even spent some on ancient debris and diamonds and somewhat restocked our resource barrel, where we're now using stack upgrades for even more storage space. Like we could store 16,000 redstone in this one slot alone. It is a very nice mod. Now since we have brass, I went ahead and made the mechanical crafters, so we can now make crushing wheels if we need them. Now let me show off an underused function of functional storage. In the left hand drawer we have a pusher upgrade that is pushing its content to the east, which is into this rolling mill. Then in the right hand drawer we have a puller upgrade pulling from the west out of the rolling mill. No pipes or belts were needed. We are going to be using this a lot in this mod pack. But with the wire from the mill, we can now craft an alternator, which in itself can generate a little bit of power. We can use rotational power on one side and it'll generate RF on the other. Instead, we'll use that to craft up a stone generator, which we can upgrade all the way to diamond. I'm thinking that we could use our excess coal coke to power this generator, which would power the squeezer to make more coal. So let's buy some mineral saplings and chop down their trees. I think it's time that we make a magnet. We can only make the basic version as we only found one ender pearl in one of the villages. But now items will come to us from up to 5 blocks away. Plus there's a curio slot for it. It is always nice to see that. So firstly we need a squeezer and 2 energy batteries, but it looks like we need more crystallized mineral, so more trees it is I guess. That's 2 batteries and that is a mechanical squeezer. Let's attach that to the generator and yes, it does push power into it. So the coke oven is a lot like a regular furnace. We'll need to pump coal into the top, but it looks like we can extract creosote oil from any side. Though before we do that, I do need to finalize the location for these coke ovens, along with farming all of the clay to make them. Please hold. Your horses! I think there might have been a whoopsie when they made this mod pack and something isn't gated behind anything and it's pretty overpowered and you know how much I love a good whoopsies. So let me walk you through my journey to whoopsie enlightenment. I was setting up the coke ovens and working out item transport. I started using these fluid pipes, however as previously seen they are incredibly expensive. On this belt all of the coal coke is going to head back to a single drawer that's connected to our network. Now to confuse things, we are running 2 functional storage networks. This one here used to be the one at the front connecting our planks, but now it's also connected to our creosote oil in a fluid drawer so we can move it wirelessly around our mini network. It then goes to another extension where we extract the fluid cell and into a spout. Then we just move the oak planks over with an extension to go under the spout to be treated wood and is pulled into a locked drawer for filtering. Again though, none of what we are doing now is permanent, we kind of need a lot more tech. Okay, I'm sorry I kept you waiting, but I got carried away explaining things. The mod that has no progression gating is integrated dynamics. The mod that allows us to move power, items, fluid and logic anywhere using a single cable and some connectors. As far as I can tell, the only recipe that was changed was the generator, which you don't really need. That means that we can now distribute coal to all of our coke ovens and pull out the creosote oil very cheap and easy. We can even use the mechanical squeezer to get an insane amount of crystallized mineral from just mineral logs. It even produces a mineral resin which can get pushed into a mechanical drying basin and it makes straight up blocks of crystallized mineral. Ridiculously overpowered is my favorite kind of overpowered, especially when you have a ton of logs already in storage. So we'll need a logic programmer to start with, and we'll convert it to a portable version for coding on the go. We'll need a bunch of variable card. Ooh, that's probably more than we're ever going to need. Oh well, in a drawer is probably the best place for these. Next, we're going to need a ton of logic cable, as we're going to need to run these pretty much everywhere. For now, we're going to focus on the coal, so we need item interfaces, importers, and exporters. They'll need input transformers, which need sticky piston, which you guessed it, needs slime balls. Sadly, not a shop option. We do have the option of finding jellyfish in the ocean, and we can smelt one of those into one slime ball. I'd say though that is far too time consuming with such slow spawn rates, so we might go for the wheat dough using create. For now, we can make up some item interfaces, but more importantly, item exporters. We'll run a cable down the length of the coke ovens and pop an exporter on the top of each. Since we don't need filtering right now, we can just pop a card into export all items. Then connected to that cable, we will have our squeezer, and we can throw an item interface into the bottom. And with a little bit of patience, this was easily the best way to do this. Item exporters for coal, fluid importers for the creosote. Attached to that network, we have some diamond generators. They receive coal coke and give out power. We could use coal instead, but we're not really going to need the coal coke until later game, so I guess this is fine for now. The best part about ID is that we can make mini networks using a single cable like we have for the buyer for coal here. Technically we don't need this belt, but it's already here, so it's fine. Okay, so I've just checked and this whoopsies has been fixed in a patch recently, and it's now gated behind compressed mechanisms. But not if you play on the same version as me though. Wink wink, nudge nudge. So now instead of making 4 mechanisms at a time, we can swap this filter over to the treated wood and we can make 8 at a time instead, provided we have the creosote. Between clips I will keep adding more coke ovens to boost that production. So I'm avoiding pneumatic craft and I've converted our compressed mechanism thing to sturdy sheets. And next to it we have some assembly for train tracks. We can use those sturdy sheets to make train casing. Weirdly, we need to get the infinite lava achievement before we can complete the quest to work towards it. Love that sound. We'll take some train tracks down towards our mountain and let's dig this in a little bit. And with that bonus obsidian, we can make a train-sized nether portal. If we run the track right in front of it, it'll auto-connect and we now have a track to the nether. And now we need something temporary we can use as a train. That's because I have a really fun plan for later using the Steam and Rails add-on, but for now we're just going to use a train. Turns out we need precision mechanisms for the train controls. We have a filter here set to has incomplete in the ID. That way the sequence can loop a few times before completion. If we throw in a gold plate and let it stamp once, we can use that as a reference to get the filter ID. That's 2 train controls. Assemble train, and it works! Yay! Over in the nether side, we have a new train station, which is the closest chunk to where we have more than 10,000 lava blocks below it. Currently, it's not saying it's an infinite source, but if we manually pump out 1 bucket, it will then update to say infinite. Now we can just use integrated dynamics to pump out insane amounts of infinite lava into our trains. All we need now is a train schedule, and we have automated infinite lava in the overworld. Choo choo. So in order to definitely not avoid diving into pneumatic craft, it would probably be a good idea to now make chapter 1 a lot more efficient using ID to move everything around. It would also be nice to make it a little bit more compact, as this is somewhat sprawling and slow. We've had to swap over to using ID and I've never really been much of a fan of it, mostly because of how janky the interface feels to use and configure. Blaze burner, tanks, steam engine, straw for our burner so he can drink the lava, a sink for infinite water, and with 1 blaze burner we can generate 16,000 stress units. Obviously we're going to want the 9 burners, but we got to make more brass in a bit. We'll supply them with our infinite lava and we won't ever need to stress about not having enough stress for the rest of the pack. But as I may have just mentioned, I'm now going to go and delete all of this and build it back more efficiently. Please hold. Honestly, destruction is kind of fun and relaxing. I don't know what that says about me as a person. But now we can put together the most efficient tier 1 we can with our current technology. I've tried my best to hide the blaze burners just in case the particles were causing performance issues. Because my friends, I have no idea what's going on, but for some reason I am struggling to run this mod pack. We are still in what could be called a fully vanilla world, with hardly any modern items placed down. Something about this pack is quite CPU intensive, but I can't work out what that would be at this time. So then we're going to try and pay attention to keeping all of chapter 1 in a single chunk, and the same for future chapters for easy chunk loading later. So working backwards, we're going to need 3 deployers. What's different is we're going to be using item exporters to send the items over to it. 1 for andesite alloy, 1 cogwheel, and 1 shaft. And then all we need to do is set up ways to make those on this integrated system. Here's some highlights. For making andesite alloy, we can use an expandable system like this. That way we can scale it. Bulk smelting is still the best option for making the iron. Shafts were the bottleneck last time, so this time we're going to triple up on saws. Planks were nice and quick, so we can use a very similar system as previous. And I think that's everything powered the correct way. We have a drawer that is going to get pushed into first. That way we always have a stockpile of basic mechanisms. Next we have a barrel which will pick up all of the junk failed crafts, like buttons and stuff. Then lastly we have the shop which is going to sell any excess mechanisms so we can start making a profit without any effort. So let's plug it in and revel in chapter 1 being nice and automated. Oh, I forgot to make treated planks. That's an easy fix though, we can just pull them into a drawer. There we go, nice and efficient basic mechanisms. And while we have all that excess creosote, let's whack it up to maximum speed. So welcome back my friends. I spent a little time between clips trying to tidy things up a little bit, and for the most part we now have everything situated within 4 chunks. Considering the lag, I am being very cautious about what chunk loading we need to do. Don't look at the coke ovens though, they're gonna move later. Probably underground since there's not really enough room up here to have as many as we're gonna need. I decided to sink the track down a little since soon we're gonna be swapping this little chew over to a monorail for extra jazz. So in just a moment we're gonna be diving into some pneumatic craft. Cue the sad music. But I've been thinking that sooner rather than later we're probably going to want to set up a house for all of our personal processing that we're going to be doing. Plus we're going to need to have somewhere to set up a storage system and somewhere to really live. Now full disclosure, I've not quite recovered from pneumatic craft when we did it in arcane engineering, so I may not feel like explaining every little detail again, but we'll see. But in preparation I've set up some igneous extruders, 2 for stone and 2 for cobble. So let's throw some iron on the ground, light up a baby TNT, and it'll boom into some compressed iron. It's not lossless, so it's not the ideal method. We'll use it with the stone to make reinforced stone, which crafts all the way into pressure chamber wall. We'll need some interfaces, some pressure tubes, some air compressors, some valves, and some chamber glass for aesthetics. We'll also want some safety tube modules to reduce the chance of boom. We're going to be using a 4x4x4 pressure chamber. It can be 3 wide or even 5 wide, but we're going to go for 4 because reasons. We'll have an insert interface and an extract interface, a valve to get the pressure into the chamber, and for now we're going to use an air compressor since that was free from the villagers. The most important part though is this safety tube module, since it'll reduce the chance of an explosion until we get security upgrades. The rest of the exterior will be pressure chamber glass and we're pretty much ready to craft. To get items in, we're going to need a hopper, but pipes or integrated dynamics will work too. We'll use a pipe in fact to extract the finished craft. We can pop in an iron ingot, and once the pressure hits 2 bars, it'll craft into 1 compressed iron. While we wait for pressure, we can craft up a refinery controller and 3 refinery outputs. We're also going to need a thermopneumatic processing plant, and while we're crafting, we can also make a tier 2 oil contract for the quest. Though we are not going to be buying oil, I have a much cooler idea for getting our oil soon. It all starts with a pump jack bearing. The quest will give us an oil detector which we can use to search each chunk for oil. Nope, 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 nope. Ding, ding, ding. Lads, we have found oil. So if we set up a pump jack in this chunk, we should have a slow but infinite crude oil source. Now that is an awesome looking build that we're gonna do soon. It looks like we'll need a pipe all the way down to bedrock, a task in itself with that new world height. That's the job for later, methinks. Right now we'll need a blaze burner, and on top we'll pop down the refinery controller and 3 refinery outputs. To kickstart things, I guess we can buy a little crude oil, we can chuck that into the controller, then if we feed the blaze burner we should start to heat up that crude oil. That'll make diesel, kerosene and LPG, which is the one that we want. We can apply some thermal lagging to all the exposed sides to make it lose less heat, making it more efficient. Don't forget the top. Now the processing plant also needs heat, and we can use the time in a bottle on the controller because we ain't got time to be waiting around for it. 1 bucket of LPG into the processor, add in some coal, and that'll start to make up some lovely molten plastic. Yoink! Quest complete. For now, our only option is to place it in world for it to cool down into a usable plastic. 1 bucket of LPG is 10 buckets of plastic, which is actually a nice ratio. Technically speaking, we could now move on to chapter 3, the electrical age. That's because in order to make the blast bricks, we need the plastic we just made. Ooh, I forgot we were crafting compressed iron. Well, it did. Yay, I guess. So the next component is electric. Made in an engineer's workbench with capacitors made with pressure crafting. And transistors are also pressure crafting, both using plastic. Ouch. But enough chatter. I'm gonna go and work out that pump jack mod because I am excited to try it out. I'll see you soon. This looks incredible. I love it so much. This is now pumping a slow but infinite amount of crude oil for us to process. The worst part was indeed getting a pipe all the way down to bedrock. It's a long way these days. For now, we're pulling it into a fluid cell, which is connected to the network using ID. But essentially, you just need to follow the ponder. It does show some quarter type blocks on the end here, but those aren't necessary. Over at the pneumatic craft area, I have duplicated the coal curator for power that we had over there, since we're gonna need it for coal in just a moment. We start with a buyer, into a mechanical squeezer, into a buffer drawer, and into some diamond generators so we can power that squeezer. That coal was needed to make the plastic over here, but it's also what we're going to use to power our blaze burner. Sadly, a burner with a straw just doesn't add enough heat, but using a comparator to read the output, we can use 1 coal at a time. So let's set up a fluid filter for LPG, which we'll export into the processing plant. We'll use a fluid interface on the LPG output and hook it all together. Now to make the plastic, we'll start with a small fluid tank as our buffer. Let's see, can we hop it in a bucket? We can, and that gives us a bucket of molten plastic. So if we have a barrel with a heat frame on it connected to a vortex tube, we should be able to cool this barrel down enough to solidify the plastic. And this is what it looks like all wired together. Negative 270 degrees, making plastic with a chance to make 2 at a time from 1 bucket. Now this small fluid tank has 2 jobs. Firstly, we are sending an empty bucket from here to it, then when there's 1 bucket of plastic, it's gonna fill that up and send it over to the barrel for cooling, looping forever. But now we have a problem that needs addressing. We really don't need this kerosene or diesel. I mean, technically we could convert it into LPG, but I'm not sure that's going to be worth the effort. So, fluid trash can to the rescue. I know, some of you are going to be very annoyed at me for doing that, but I apologize in advance, okay? All that matters right now is that plastic is now fully automated, which means that we can now craft up a blast furnace to make a start on chapter 3 and steel production. Just like the coke ovens, it's a 3x3x3 multi-block, but unlike the coke ovens, this version cannot be automated. Coal coke plus iron ingots or blocks will very slowly start to make steel. We'll need 27 steel plates to upgrade this to the reinforced blast furnace, which can be automated. There's a quest for the engineer's table which we borrowed from a village, totally intending to return it of course. We're also going to need a crafting components blueprint. We can use that to make steel mechanical components and iron mechanical components. How exciting! Less excitingly, we are now holding horses because we need to make electronic components to move on any further. Because the next task is to make a whole host of industrial machinery. It's destruction time! 6 brass sheets, 2 precision mechanisms, 1 collapsible glider, 4 chutes. No, don't craft yet. Oh, I have this one facing the wrong way. Rookie mistake. 1 shaft and 1 copper back tank. That is 1 jetpack of the mechanical variety. Combined with netherite, we can make it stronger. Then we can power it up using rotational power. Yay, we have vertical movement powered by bursts of air. Okay, so I forgot that we're building together, but that is some electronic components. Yeehaw. I am still dreading trying to automate this later. So instead, on the hill behind me, I think it is time to start on a house for us to live in. Something like this will do nicely. A full day of work condensed into a single jump cut. Aren't I nice to you? Here's a hole. This hole has secrets. Sneaky coke ovens now live underground so they are able to be chunk loaded. This whole factory is kept inside of 8 chunks currently, since we can only force load 25. I mean, we could increase it, but I kinda like the challenge. Let me quickly show you the factory house and then we can move on. Won't take long because all we have right now is ore processing. That way we have access to all the ingots we could need. All it is a fan blowing lava to cook the raw ores. Later we can make it a bunch more efficient. Ooh, look, I even remembered that mud exists in Minecraft. Sure how to use it in building yet, but I'll keep experimenting. I think it looks pretty cool. So the next thing on our list is automating compressed mechanisms. We have lava, we can make invar with create. The only thing holding us back is compressed iron. Now, as tempting as it is to use the bad recipe, I guess we should work out the pressure chamber automation as it features quite heavily in the pack. But first, let's put up the advanced blast furnace. Hopper on top, and there we go. We can now automate steel, I guess. Wait, did it always have smoke coming out of the top of that, or is it a new update? I don't think I've ever seen the smoke before. Let me know if that's new or old, or I just missed it because we automate from the top. I don't know. Fine. We need to find a way to send a few iron ingots into this thing, but not too many as it'll probably clog up. 1 at a time would be perfect, but there's no way to detect how many iron are currently inside. So the last 27 minutes I spent making this tutorial for reading inventories was pointless. It's probably going to go on the second channel. Okay, so I worked out a way to make it count an inventory, but not the pressure chamber. But here is the variable store. We've got a counting variable, counting how many items are in our compressed iron drawer. If that is less than integer 256, it can export the iron ingots, or else export no item. It's not perfect, but it might work. In the exporter, we have a variable card which is either exporting the iron or nothing, if the compressed steel is less than 4 stacks. Such a confusing logic mod for my brain. The inventory counter is here and we currently have 381. If we take some out, it should kick into gear and send some iron far too quickly, but should stop once we are above 4 stacks again. Pneumaticraft without fail breaks my brain every single time. To be fair, that's most mods these days. After a little more tweaking, we have the remaining shop items automated for personal use, even the expensive ones like diamonds and emeralds. We have a buyer, 2 item drains to move the items over to a mechanical squeezer, where we then extract the squeezed items with ID to where they go. For power, we are just using uranium generators because I can't work out how to get blaze rods, at least not in peaceful. I think we might need to play normally soon, or at least sporadically out of peaceful since we really have a choice. Over to the left of the door, I have moved all of our storage inside. Very nice. What's nicer is this cute little system over here. In here we have smelting, cooking, haunting and washing. So if we want to make bricks, we go to the bottom barrel for the smelter and throw in our clay. That's then moved using ID to the start of the belt for the smelter. Once smelted, they end up in the top barrel. Outside we have some basic steel automation, tapping into the iron smelter from chapter 1 and coal coke from the coke ovens. We're gonna need a ton of steel soon and it is quite slow. so it was good to have this running in the background. And finally, I started prepping for automating chapter 2 with you. Basic mechanisms will go into this drawer, they'll be stamped, deployed a compressed gear, an invar rod, and shot with lava. Should be totally easy to do. Behind we've got 2 smelters, one for iron and one for nickel, the 2 ingots that we need to make invar. I then spent 15 minutes trying to get ID auto crafting to work, but either I'm really bad at this or it has been disabled. I'm probably just bad. Like, it was trying to craft it, but it just couldn't. Ah well, there's other autocraft methods we can use. Yeesh, dropping below 40 frames per second. Nothing we have played should really be that taxing on fairly recent hardware. Not good. Anyways, we have mechanical crafters now making those compressed gears. It does mean that now we're actively using the compressed iron, so we are going to need to keep an eye on this system. Silly me, forgot the downgrade, that could have been expensive. Next we need to export lava to the sploosher, a simple fluid variable will do that for us. Lastly we need to automate invar rods, for which we first need invar, deployer for coal, blaze burner, basin and a mixer. 2 item exporters, one for nickel and one for iron. We'll use a drawer to pull out the invar, then we need a comparator for the deployer so we don't waste coal. Add in some rotational power, export coal to the poker and power up the mixer. Lock the drawer to invar ingots and set up the puller upgrade. Now we just need to roll it, so we'll pop down a drawer with a roller on top where we can just export the invar ingot. Lastly we need a downgrade and a puller upgrade, and that should be invar rods automated. Test time! If they go through, then we technically have automation of compressed mechanisms. That is success, my friends, but granted it is not very efficient just yet. But as always, we build it ugly and bad so we can optimize it and pretty it up later. Time for a little break, so I think it's time to work on changing the train over to a monorail so the factory can be decorated a little bit better. And the lag in the FPS was driving me mad, so I have now put the modpack on a server, and now we're getting a mostly solid 60 frames because that's what I capped it at. There is an affiliate link down in the description if you need a server for yourself, since right now I'm not really that interested in doing sponsorships. One side effect of the world running 24/7 though is we're up to $183 million. Money quite literally means nothing at the moment, and that's kind of sad times. We're still aiming for that billion though. I'm sorry it's dark, but we just need to double check that monorail can go through a portal. It can. Legendary. That's going to run down the length of our current track and replace our little engine that couldn't. So providing nothing goes wrong, the next clip will be a seamless transition to our new monorail. Wish me luck. We are out of iron. I really did not see that coming, but it does kind of make sense because of the insane quantities we need for compressed gears. Plus, we're not using mechanical crafters anymore, we are now using the crafter from RF Tools. It is much quicker and probably why we have no iron left. Oh dang it, the seamless transition. Whoopsies. Oh well, this is our little monorail train. It is not just a factory now, it's a fancy factory. Very posh. Overall, it's leaning in the right factory direction, which is a win in my books. So looking at chapter 3, we are going to need to automate capacitors and transistors sooner rather than later. For now, we can make up some redstone engineering blocks, light engineering blocks, and after a cheeky steel bonk, some heavy engineering blocks. So I couldn't really decide what to build first, so we've got the auto workbench. We're going to need every machine except the crusher anyway. Power goes into the top, we can pop in a blueprint, and we can tell it that we want it to make the iron components, for example. We could then hop it into the blue dot some iron and copper, and it'll auto make the item we select. This is honestly my favorite machine from Immersive Engineering, just from a purely animated view. It's really cool. The problem is this inventory could completely fill up with either iron or copper and stop working. It's going to be an interesting problem to solve, that's for sure. Maybe we could try the ID auto crafting again. But before we dive into power hungry machines, we should probably tackle generating some decent power. The quest book shows us a good few options, but magmatic dynamos make the most sense because we've got infinite lava. We can make 16, and that's a good start, but I feel like we're going to need so many of these. All we need to do is export lava and have an energy interface on the front of it to add the power to our network. ID is kind of overpowered sometimes. With the amount of lava that we need though, I think we may need to make the 10,000 source blocks in the overworld at some point, as our old tune may not be able to keep up. Oh my friends, the crafting interface is working for these auto workbenches. It fits perfectly on the blue dot, however I got very confused because we don't actually need to automate the components. I owe you an apology as that was a bigger time skip than I was intending. I kinda just got lost in the zone and lost track of time. So I guess I'd better walk you through what we have here so it might inspire your own playthrough. We have a new pressure chamber set up with a crafting interface making capacitors, and a second one set up for transistors. Transistors need automated gold wire, silicon and plastic. Capacitors need gold wire, redstone and plastic. And I've just realized I forgot to do redstone, so let's add in a cheeky manual box for the time being. For the gold wire, we are using a metal press with a wire mold. They go into a drawer with a gold upgrade and a void upgrade, since I didn't have the patience to set up the whole redstone thing to stop it running when the drawer is full. The gold ingots we are making in a new smelter tower. At the top we have an energy transmitter that will wirelessly move rotational power, a gearbox to change rotation, our fan, lava, and a depot. Around the back we are buying raw gold and putting it on the depot, and then finally into a compacting drawer. We also need copper wire for the final craft, so we've got a duplicate setup for copper. Moving on, we needed a ton of cobblestone, so here we have a couple of igneous extruders down to cover all of our needs. The cobblestone is fed into the top of some crushing wheels to make gravel. The gravel goes through some crushing wheels to make sand. Turns out we also get clay and flint, so we just have a cable pulling it out of the chute. That sand then needs to get haunted into soul sand, and that soul sand then needs to be washed in order to generate quartz. That quartz then goes to a final smelting tower to make the silicon that we so desperately desire. Now, to see if any of this actually works, we have a drawer where we're going to request the system to send over electronic components. Let's reconnect the cable and likely see it not work the first time we try. Nope. No requests. Actually helps if we connect the compressed mechanisms to the network. And the copper wire. Yay, the request has started. Why is it only sending over a lot of gold wire? Maybe we need to put in a buffer barrel so we can read that it is sent over the gold wire. Yes, that is what we needed. Just need to export the items from the barrel, and amazing, we have got 2 transistors and 2 capacitors. Yay! Oh my goodness, it is auto-crafting the mechanisms. Highly unexpected success. And to speed it up, we may get away with increasing numbers in the recipe patterns. Nope, that broke it. Looks like I've got some things to tweak and work out. I'll see you soon. Alrighty then, my friends. I've scrolled through the modpack's Discord server and it turns out we don't actually need to automate things just yet. It is completely okay to wait for applied energistics, mostly due to the issues with the pressure chambers. Now, technically there's a janky way to do it with pretty pipes, but I have mixed feelings about that mod, so I tend to avoid using it. We're pretty much redoing everything we've done so far once we have AE2 anyway, so let's wait a little bit. We are up to 183 electronic components, but we need the next tier I think to get into AE2, so we should probably push for that next. That is where we need to work through chapter 3, and all of the immersive engineering machinery. We'll start with the squeezer, but I think we're just going to make them all. Oof, this really is a big machine. But now we are out of resources, so let me go hobble together some resources and get the rest of these things built. There we go. If we squeeze coke dust, we'll get hop graphite dust. And that initial coke dust is made from crushing down coal coke. All of these machines use a ton of power, so that is why we have a secret power room that I totally didn't forget to show you earlier. Nice save, hobble. If we smelt that hop graphite dust, we will get graphite ingots. We can throw some of those onto a metal press with a rod mold, and that gives us our graphite electrodes that we can use in the arc furnace. All of this effort to try and make some titanium ingots. 1 hop graphite dust and 8 rutile dust, which we'll get from even more crushing wheels. At least we can buy the raw rutile, pop it in a barrel, and crushy. And the arc furnace has given us titanium. Sorry, That unlocks the Senior Engineer's contract, which is just for graphite electrodes. Granted, they do have 100% integrity, so should last twice as long as the ones we crafted. Now, before we can move on to empty PCBs, we need to make Duraplast sheets. Are you ready for this? For that, we need phenolic resin, which we can make in a refinery with creosote oil and acetaldehyde. Acetaldehyde is made in a refinery with ethanol and a silver plate. Ethanol is made in an industrial fermenter from crops, which we'll probably choose potatoes. But then finally, to turn it into Duraplast sheets, we'll need a bottling machine with a plate mold. And yes, it probably should be automated to some degree. Alright, 3 more machines built. We've got a fermenter, the bottling machine, and a second refinery. Couldn't find any potatoes, so for now we're just going to start off with apples. Yay, ethanol! That'll be exported into the first refinery along with some silver plates. Acetaldehyde complete, and into the next refinery with creosote oil. The refinery wears to life to make our phenolic resin. Export that into our bottling machine, and if we throw on a plate mold, it'll get sent through and into a Duraplast sheet. Ooh, and we get the mold back as well. Nice. So I guess we can just use a barrel at the end and then send the plate mold back to the start. Combining with copper sheets, that finally gives us some circuit backplanes. Oh, and of course, it's yet another pressure chamber. Do you ever feel like you're going in circles, but the circles keep getting wider and more intricate? It's quite a lot of do this, get that, then do the same thing again to get a different that. I think I might be projecting my tiredness of Pneumaticraft onto this pack, which is kind of unfair, so let me see what I can hobble together. Well, even though we're on a server, performance is still an issue, so let us speed through a couple of things. Let's throw some titanium plate, circuit backplanes and electron wire into this pressure chamber. That's going to give us 30 empty PCBs. Oh, and since we're going to be leaving peaceful, we should probably put down a mega torch. Let's enable hard mode since that's what we always do anyway. We can buy some carrots and goldenify them for our food source. In the mixer, we will pop 4 rotten flesh and a bucket of molten plastic. That's going to give us etching acid, and we should only need to do this once. Now we need to charge up the Amazon tablet so we can buy the PCB blueprint. That lets us make the UV light box. Empty PCB goes in, convince it to speed up, and that's a guaranteed etch success. Now we need an etching tank with the etching acid inside of it. Pop in our PCB, some slight persuasion, and that's our first unassembled PCB. Crafted with an electronic component that will give us a finished PCB. Oh goody, we love to do this, don't we? Controller, platform, laser, input on left, output on right, barrel on left, barrel on right. Program and security upgrade into the controller, and done. Chapter 3 is now completed, and we can move on to Chapter 4, AE2, Thermal and Industrial Foregoing. If we put our valuable finished PCB into our laser assembly, it is going to slowly think about working. Speed upgrades to the rescue. Much better. That is our packaged integrated circuits. Thrown onto a mechanical saw, that'll give us 24 integrated circuits, which is our next progression milestone. Unlocking thermal is a game changer thanks to how overpowered their machines can be, but more importantly, we can make an inscriber. Sadly though, this is old AE2, so that means there's no quality of life changes to make this easy for us. We can buy the presses though, so that's nice. Making printed silicon one at a time like the old gods intended. Certus quartz. Oh dear, this one is expensive. For $4 million, we can buy 16 Certus seedlings. Those get thrown into a millstone to make a Certus crystal. This isn't the main way to get them, this is just the first way. We can then charge them up in a charger, and then we'll throw it in the water with the damaged crystal we got as a quest reward to make a chipped version. Again, to make a flawed version, that goes into a washing system, but this time we got 6 Certus quartz crystals. To make another damaged one, we need the Certus sapling in water with another charged crystal, and then we keep repeating that until one day we might get a flawless Certus block, which will generate crystals the same way that amethyst grows. This could take a minute. Okay, this is brutal and time consuming. So let's do something else for a bit. It is time to make some flux dust. We need to get our butts all the way down to bedrock, which we don't exactly have an easy path to. Or maybe we do, thanks to the oil pump piping. Obsidian here, redstone dust between, punch the obsidian, flux dust acquired, and a little extra just in case. Now we're on fire. This is fine. 4 blaze rods into a crushing wheel for 12 blaze powder. Literally no bonus this time around. That is so rude. That'll let us make some eyes of ender which we can use to make some flux cores. 4 cores for 1 flux block, so we can make a flux plug and 2 flux points. Plug connects to power, and now we can use the flux points to move power wirelessly around the factory. I think we're probably all familiar with this mod by now, as it's in nearly every pack. We can then spread that to multiple machines using mechanism cable. Side quest complete. It is time for me to get back to trying to make the flawless Certus block. New distraction. We can use those pneumaticraft hoppers to set up some manual automation for the inscribers to try and get some AE2 circuits up and running. Press goes in the top slot, gold in the side hopper, and that's the logic circuit. Hopper underneath to pull them out. Okay, turns out we gotta extract it from the front. It's still a success. Okay, I guess a drawer with a puller upgrade makes a lot more sense. So let me go and hobble together the other circuits. And hobble together it is. Super temporary, that's for sure. But as always, I got a little carried away and I was kinda tired of ID storage, so we now have some AE2 crafting once we give it some power. And let me tell you my friends, it is so nice to see a normal crafting terminal again. This is the beginning of some pure and beautiful automation. That means it is time to rip apart the factory, and not a moment too soon, as I'm recording on a render distance of 2 due to performance issues. I'll be honest, I'm just not very good at integrated dynamics, so it's probably not helping things at all. We can now do away with all of these heavy hard-hitting machines and cables and make something compact, efficient, with performance in mind. That does sadly mean that we need to use the least amount of the create mod as possible. A new challenge has been unlocked. We'll probably still need these washers, but perhaps we could put these inside of compact machines. The saws can be replaced by the thermal sawmill. Okay, I'm excited. It is time to rip it all down and see what we are left with. It's gone. It's all gone. What have I done? Hello. We have FPS again. While tearing it down, I did come to realize that this is a somewhat create-centered mod pack, and we're going to be using the bare minimum create. It seems silly, but I gotta think about your viewing experience. Nobody likes a stuttery video. So let's see about basic mechanisms. Final assembly does need to be create. We'll use an induction smelter to make andesite alloy. We'll buy andesite on top, and now we need iron nuggets. We'll start with a regular drawer, followed by a compacting drawer and a redstone furnace. On the furnace, we'll be buying raw iron. We'll lock the normal drawer to iron nuggets so we can use it as a filter and set the compacting drawer up as well. Iron ingots get pushed into the compacting drawer, and we'll use a puller upgrade to pull out the nuggets and send to the induction smelter. Andesite alloy complete. Silly hobble forgot the downgrades again. Yay, it's working. Cogs next. Let's use the crafting recipe. We need a drawer to pull and push, and we'll use a crafter. We'll need to supply this with oak planks and a shaft. Planks first, and we'll use a buffer drawer and a sawmill. Fire on top for oak logs. Sadly, we do get sawdust as a byproduct, so we'll send those into a drawer for now and use a void upgrade. To be fair, we should probably just do the same system for the shafts. We have andesite being made here. We should have added a buffer drawer. Let me just shift everything 1 block to the left. There we go. We can now use this to also make shafts. This might not work, but if we put the crafter here and use a drawer, we could send the shaft down to the cog crafter and also into the last deployer. And honestly, I think we can get away with using the item pipes now. They are not prohibitively expensive anymore. Ooh, drawers can't push into crafters. This changes everything. Not really, just need to move it 1 block away for a pipe. Let's work on rotational power next, which sadly does need a create boiler. My thoughts are that we can hide those moving parts and particles away in a compact machine, and then transfer the rotation out using the wireless doodad. Dang, out of ender pills. Luckily, there is piglin bartering for that. That's the personal shrinking device, so now we can shrink down inside this machine and set up a boiler inside of here. We can then use these fluid tunnels to send in the lava to power the blaze burners. Solid plan. Let me put it into action. Everything just has to be difficult, doesn't it? Boiler up and running, feeding into an energy transmitter. We can see that we have it connected because this one is spinning. The chunk is force loaded. Then why you not spin, my friend? It doesn't work. I now don't understand the reason for including compact machines in this pack. Turns out that the transmitter mod cannot move stress units across dimensions, so I think we're just gonna hide the boiler underground somewhere. Let me get chapter 1 hooked up and we will go from there. We're all powered up and ready to go, looking ever so slightly different. You see, andesite alloy was our biggest bottleneck, since it's used for all 3 deployers, so we now have an expandable system in place to make as much as we would like. But in theory, we only need this to be as fast as our chapter 2 can be. Now let's talk about treated wood and creosote. We are now using pyrolyzers in place of a billion coke ovens. They need coal, so we are using a pulverizer in place of the squeezer. The mechanisms are stored in a drawer since we don't really need to sell, and this time we are just sending all of the failed junk to a trash can. Oh, and to make the treated wood, we are just using a fluid encapsulator. Every machine has a hardened integral component and 3 flux linkage amplifiers. Unfortunately, we can't use the reinforced ones yet because they need signalum, and that's being gated behind mechanism. Mechanism needs single board computers which require advanced crafting tables, so quite a lot of automation away yet. But my friends, for like the 4th time this video, chapter 1 is complete and in its final form, never to be changed again. Since the energy transmitters do not work cross-dimensionally, let me show you what we're doing for rotational power. I have hidden away a boiler, hopefully far enough away that we don't even think about generating particles or animations. We are pumping down our lava from the train, but I think we are very close to making the 10k source blocks and just removing the train. We are using a lot of lava since I am being power lazy and I just keep adding more dynamos when power gets low. So for chapter 2, we get to choose between sequenced assembly or using a pressure chamber. It's not really a close contest. We're going to be using create again, except this time we can use a multi-servo press to make the gears and the rods, and an induction smelter to make the alloys. We can even use pattern providers and molecular assemblers from AE2 to do any crafting that we might need. It is going to be so nice. It's as simple as alternating this design here to make a tower of them. And no, there is no extended AE2 in this pack, so sad times. In the quest book, we have an option to play AE2 without any channel limitations, and much like Peaceful, which I'd never done before, I am tempted to do the same for AE2 and just go channelless. I don't really mind the channel system, but if given the option, it is a lot tidier and manageable to play it like refined storage. Anyway, using a knife on a nether propel plant stem and then chopping them up is going to be our source of gunpowder, since nobody has time to farm creepers. We need that to power the schematic cannon to make our big tank for our infinite lava. Making sure the inside of the glass is inside a chunk boundary, we can then lower this into the ground to hide it out of the way. Using FreeCam, we can make sure it's in a reasonable position. How expensive is this going to be? It's reasonable. I have no idea why I use frame glass since we can't even see it. But fine, whatever. It just means that I'm going to be busy for a moment converting it all over. Maybe we could argue that it's more structurally sound glass to withstand the lava temperatures. What's important is that in the printer settings, we want to click replace solid with empty. That way it's going to delete the blocks in the center of the tank where we want our lava to go. Let's go, Mr. Cannon. You are going to be busy for a while. And quite a while it was. Oh, and yeah, we ran out of gunpowder quite early on, so I had to go and play in the nether again. In this hull, we now have a 10k interior tank ready to receive some lava. We're going to be withdrawing 20 buckets of lava per tick, so our train will be back and forth to the nether constantly. They're going to be piping into a bunch of hose pulleys, and in theory, it should be nice and quick. The train is gone, so we drained it out very quickly, exactly as planned. I love it when things just work. While we wait, I'll gather the bits to try and automate chapter 2 in the most compact way possible. Yeah, okay, make sure you keep an eye on it, as even when full, the lava will continue to drain. I have no idea how long these have been a bottomless supply for. I was just watching a train go back and forth. There is definitely worse ways to spend an afternoon. So let's swap all of these to extract, and now we need to wind these pulleys all the way down until they're at the bottom of the tank. Now the problem that we face is it's not registering as an infinite supply, but there's a somewhat easy fix. We just need to manually crank out 1 bucket of lava from each, and that'll fix the issue. Hook back up the pipes, add in an ultimate pipe upgrade, upgrade, and now we have very fast and very infinite lava. That means our little monorail is now surplus to requirements. Sad, but kind of inevitable. So for chapter 2, we need to automate this pressure chamber, and I have found these rotational compressors. They use stress to generate PSI instead of coal, making it a bit easier. It also helps that they are incredibly affordable, so scaling will not be an issue, and I won't be sad if they explode. Okay, editor hobble here. Just want to mention that you should not be using the advanced pressure tubes for this, even if you do get them from a village for free. I don't work this out for another few days yet, so I just wanted to pop this in right here. Okay, back to the show. Why do we have two different types of compressed iron? This one from Pneumaticraft no longer has a recipe. It must have been from an update or something. Hopefully the updates don't cause more issues like this in the future. Anyways, we need a pattern that'll send 1 iron and receive 1 compressed iron. However, we're going to send 20 and receive 20. So it kind of works in batches. They'll go into the pattern provider attached to our input, making sure to swap it to waiting for the craft to finish before sending more. Then we just have to pipe the stuff into the provider to send the compressed iron back into the system. However, none of this auto crafting is going to work without any crafting CPUs. For now, we'll have 1 4K storage and 2 co-processors. That'll allow us to test it out. There's iron inside, and once we get to 2 bars, it should start to craft and send them back to the system. Well, they went in, but it's still locked. Why? Okay, so I've removed all compressed iron from the system so we can see what type gets returned. The Pneumaticraft kind. Why? It has no recipe. Fine, we'll just change the pattern to be that kind, just to be done with this bit. Success! Now we can request compressed iron. Alright, it is time to say goodbye to the old chew. Let's give ourselves a little bit more room for the factory to grow. Wow, that is actually a lot of space that we now have for activities. Together we automated basic mechanisms, and overnight we're up to 980,000 of them. A little too many if you ask me. This morning I did the same for compressed mechanisms, and we're already up to 3,000. Granted, these are very slow because Pneumaticraft is slow. Even with 5 rotational compressors, it takes ages to build back up to 2 bars, even at 2,000 stress units each. I'm not sure how quick they need to be though, as that's going to depend on how fast we can make chapter 3. Oh, and changing the pattern to a full stack didn't help at all. The pump jack is now back up and running, and there's a little bit of a possible intentional glitch. Speed controller set to the max speed, we can do an additional gear ratio to make it spin at over 500 RPM. This feels like illegal knowledge. But moving on, let's make ourselves a click machine, as I want to test to see if it can feed a blaze burner. Oh, it can! That's made things a lot easier, and it is powered by Rainbow Magic. Nice one. That is the LPG sorted, ready to make plastic in the same way we did earlier, using the bucket and the barrel method. There we go, plastic automation up and running. Yay, up next is some more pressure chamber work, and I might try and get some of chapter 3 automated too. The same as before, just automated. With the monorail gone, we now have the start of a lovely little factory base. We have our basic mechanisms, we have our compressed mechanisms, and now we have electronic components up and running. We are making capacitors and transistors the same way as before, but with AE2, both being powered by rotational compressors. Oh, and a quick side note, we are definitely not making enough plastic for this. We are gonna need to scale this up very soon. We'll probably add more refineries instead of trying to recycle the other liquids. Both wires are still being made on a metal press, but this time it's on request. And lastly, we have the automated workbench making all of the components. And we do have 2 making 10 at a time, but until plastic is fixed, this is kind of overkill. So how do we automate these PCBs? An empty PCB is made in yet another pressure chamber, with electrum wire, titanium plates and circuit backplanes. Backplanes were the Duraplast sheets and refinery chains, that's easy enough. Titanium, however, can only be made in the arc furnace, utilizing 2 different input slots. So down here in the hole, oh yeah, I decided not to put a building around the factory so we can see everything working at different heights. It should look cool in the end. But here's the fix for the arc furnace. You start with a pattern provider being taught the full recipe. This feeds into a 1x2 drawer. On the left, we are extracting only the rutile dust into the left port, and on the right, we extract only the hop dust into the right hand port. The titanium is then kicked out of the front into a drawer, and in order to send it back into the system, we have a drawer controller with a pipe to extract it. Now, while I was away working on this, we have generated 2.1 million basic mechanisms. 8 at a time really is insane and should definitely be nerfed. We just can't produce the compressed iron quick enough to use them all. Right now, we're going to craft up the wireless terminal and upgrade that to a crafting terminal. Pop that into a charging station, then down in the center of the factory we have a wireless access point with some boosters. But then in the crafting terminal we can link this to our network. Oh no, this is old AE2. We're going to need that security terminal, wireless crafter in, and we are now linked up. Nice. Crafting on the go. Finally. Now, we have a choice of directions to go. We could either keep pushing forward with progression, or we could future-proof a little bit and tackle some of the power mod. The dynamos really aren't that strong in comparison. The only annoying part is the fuel first needs to be made in an energizing orb. Then again, uranium is sold in the shop, so it's just speed that slows us down there. Looks like the capacitors need redstone ingots, which we can now make because we have the induction smelter. Technically, we could also look into part 2 of chapter 4 with Botania, Nature's Aura, and Ars Nouveau. Yeah, I think we're going to hide from that one just for a little bit longer. Automating magic can be a bit difficult. Instead, I think I'm going to go finish setting up the last few machines for these circuit boards, and we'll be right back. Well, it's been a few days since we last spoke, but I think we're now at the point where we left off before getting applied energistics. Don't forget, if you do want to look around this world for yourself, channel members do get world downloads for each mod pack completed going forward. In time, I will add some of the older packs, but there's just not enough time in the day right now. But all of this is exactly what we had before, with the addition of some garden cloches to grow the potatoes to make the ethanol. Then over here we have a simple system turning cobblestone into sand. Over in this wing we of course have the arc furnace, but we now also have the crushing wheels turning coal coke into coke dust, which then feeds into the squeezer. We've got yet another pressure chamber making those empty PCBs. They feed into an assembly platform to make the unassembled PCBs. They're then combined with the electric components to make the finished PCBs that we so rightly deserve. In the house we have a nice and simple and lag friendly system for making all of the ingots. I'm slowly converting the drawers to compacting versions so we have access to blocks and nuggets as well. This is the start of an automation wall, which is for all of the processing which happens between patterns, like making plates, alloys and dusts. Then over here is the start of the power mod, automated with modular routers and AE2. Then down in the power room we now have a hardened reactor. We can't go any further without farming more blaze rods, which I really don't want to do. I think the last thing is over here we've scaled up LPG production by spamming more refineries, but now the bottleneck is how fast we produce crude oil. There's always something. The next thing to tick off the list is probably setting up a mob farm using mob grinding utilities. It should have probably been done last week, but it's a task that I tend to put off doing. The one main thing I'll show you is that we need GM chicken feed, and that needs 4 buckets of essence. For that we'll be using an XP drain singularity tank, and then when we stand on it, it'll drain our player experience to create a liquid essence. We can then yoink that out with a bucket or 4. And now we have a generic mob farm that I build in every video that needs one. Add in some upgrades, pop down some mob fans, and oh dear, we crashed the server. That's not great, to be honest. Well, the crash undid the mob farm as I had to restore from a backup, so I have moved it further from the factory as I realized the mega torch was probably going to break it. Now this has been running overnight and we already have a stupid amount of items. Servers might be a little bit overpowered. Checking out the quests, we need to make computing cores. That requires thermal paste, which is a combination of different thermal mob drops. We are getting blizz powder, but we need basalts, blaze powder, molten plastic, oh dear, and blizz powder. Instead of that, let's look at a little botania. I went around the world stealing a bunch of natural flowers. We'll take some white flowers and turn them into petals to make the petal apothecary. What? Apothecary? What am I on about? We'll take some white flowers, turn them into petals, and make the petal apothecary. We can fill that up with water, throw in 4 white petals, and a seed. That's our first pure daisy. Yay, Botania, woohoo. Then using a builder's wand and a pattern like this, we can easily place the logs around the pure daisies. I can't help but notice that these are still oak logs. We need treated wooden planks. Silly me has default Botania etched into his brain from how many times that we've been through it. There we go, that's going to convert to living wood, and then we can use the exchanging gadget to quickly replace them with more treated wood. Putting a pin in Botania for a moment, as I realised that we never really finished the Certus Quartz automation. The idea is that in order to get a free Certus Quartz crystal, we throw a dust and a charged Certus into a puddle and it'll make 2 regular crystals. One of those goes into a charger and the other into a pulverizer. That gives us back our original investment plus 2 additional dust. We would then repeat this infinitely to generate bonus Certus dust. We would just need a separate puddle then to turn that dust back into the regular crystals to make the computing core bases. I have no idea how to do that, so let me try a few things out and I'll share with you what works. I'll be right back. This works, but I don't think this is the answer that we're looking for. This also works and is much faster, but I think we might be barking up the wrong tree here. The system doesn't understand that Certus is infinitely duplicatable, so we can't say just request 1,000 and have it work. I did install an ME requester so that would just keep a certain amount in stock, which would work for now, but my friends, the quest book has led us off path and we can do this so much more simply, using crystal growth accelerators and modular routers. In the center of the accelerators, we will place down the flawless Certus block that we got earlier from washing the expensive doodads. Very quickly, we will see that it is going to start growing those crystals like the amethysts do. In the router, we will be using a breaker module that was created using a Fortune 3 pickaxe. We just need to try and configure it to the front and to only break the large crystals that have grown. Make sure it's set to whitelist and let's see if that works. Oh, I remember this issue. In the FTB map, you've got to find the purple cogwheel and we need to allow fake players to work in claimed chunks. Ding! The sound of success. We can then just pull that Certus into a drawer and that is easily automated infinite Certus. It just goes to show that there are many ways to do things in modern Minecraft, some of them better than others, but no wrong answers. The only thing missing now is the Skystone slab, and I will show you soon how to easily duplicate Skystone. Now we can get back to a little Botania, using reinforced stone bricks to make our living rock. It's a little bit expensive, that's for sure. We can also make an Ars Nouveau imbuement chamber and start completing those quests as well. Inside here, we will need to insert an amethyst crystal and it'll slowly convert over to a source gem. That means that we need to find a way to generate amethyst kinda soon, I guess. For now, we will use the source gem to make a Spirit of Awakening. Throwing some living rock into a multi-servo press with an effigy die, we will get some living rock effigies. Who would have guessed it? That moves over to the final magic mod, Nature's Aura. Something I have never done before, so it should be interesting. Looks like we can buy brilliant fiber from the shop, so that's a good start. Then much like silkworms, we need to use these to infest a tree's canopy. Then using shears on the fully converted gold leaves, we will get a single gold leaf. Wow. I think I need some time to read through this manual here and try and understand this mod. I'll see you in a little bit once I've worked out what we actually need to do next. Okay, so I got bored of waiting for the trees to infest, so we are down at a geode trying to steal a budding block using a Minecraft contraption. If we gently nudge it into the water elevator, it'll do... Oh, not there. Finally! And it's waiting for us up on the surface. Now we just gotta get it into position. And off you go. Furnace minecarts are so weird. The plan is to install it in the exact same way that we have for Certus Quartz, like so. Just need to add in a modular router, but we don't have a spare Fortune 3 pickaxe right now, so we'll do that later. So instead, let's finish building the Nature's Aura novice crafting thing. We'll use that to fill in around the ghost sapling, following the outline like a pro at colouring inside of the lines. These wooden stands go where the wooden stands go. Sapling in the middle. Now, what do we do? Token of Fear as a reward? Spooky. Looks like the Nature's Altar is the next thing on our shopping list. Honestly, I don't think I can walk you through this mod, so I'm just going to include the key points that will probably be important later. For now, using a bottle and cork in the overworld will give us bottled sunshine. There's a different one in the nether and there's one in the end, so that's going to be important later. And at some point, we are going to need to generate aura in the chunks that we are making those bottles. The ancient trees don't seem to do anything at all, so don't bother with that. In order to craft with this system, items will only craft once the tree grows. It is a very pretty crafting table, that is for sure, and it consumes the gold leaf, which is awkward. That's the nature's altar, which, oh dear, it looks like another multi-block crafting thing. At least we can visualize it, that makes it easier. Still have no idea what I'm doing, but that's a good thing. It's quite refreshing to be stumped on a mod. It reminds me of those early days of playing modded Minecraft. I wouldn't be saying that though if there wasn't a book. This book is great. Anyways, we'll use this to turn iron ingots into infused iron ingots. One item that will help you out is this environmental eye. It displays a bar in the top left showing you how much aura is left in a chunk. No idea what happens if it depletes, but the book says it is not good. But I have been experimenting with generating aura. Out of everything, the swamp one really seems to be the most overpowered in this pack. We start with a sink, that goes into a fluid encapsulator to put the water onto some cobblestone to create the mossy cobble. That's pushed into a modular router which then places it down. It's consumed by the swamp thing and then the cobble is mined by another modular router and cycled back to the beginning. It's very fast and it is very effective. Now over here we have our next crafting station. It is 2 circles of flowers around an offering table. We'll need to craft up some spirits of calling, and if we offer some infused iron and throw on the spirit, lightning will strike and we should get ingots of the skies. Now if we pop in a token of joy, we'll get a token of euphoria. All of this was required to make the altar of birthing. This is how we are going to spawn those thermal mobs. So for a basalt, we need a spirit of awakening, an effigy, and a cobble deep slate. Oh, and of course it's another multi-block. So this is the birthing altar. This spawns mobs depending on what we drop on top. Items on top, magic happens, mob is spawned. We remove the mob, we get the drop. Simple, right? Nope. This is far too manual. We need a steady supply of all 4 mob drops. Does that mean that we need 4 birthing altars working full time? I sure hope not. That would be a ton of work, and I have a feeling much like the Certus Quartz, there is another option. So while that stews in my brain, let me show you some EMI for what we need to do next. If we can somehow get the cryo-cooled mainframe, we would be able to make an advanced machine frame from Industrial 4 going. With that, we could craft a mob duplicator, giving us a way to duplicate mobs, right? However, that is no simple feat. Oh dear, this is a very big recipe tree. We would need to brute force our way through all of this. The scary part is this is all part of future automation. Oh, and this is just to make 1 mob duplicator, when in reality, we need 4. And this mechanism needs these single board computers, which is our next progression and why we need to duplicate mobs in the first place. The reason I used EMI was to track how many of each mob drop we would need in order to brute force it. However, I feel like I'm missing stages as there's no way that we only need 1 basalt shard. But I guess we could automate as we go, like the pity machine frames, we could easily automate the dissolution chamber and all that latex stuff. Okay, so we have a pretty weird temporary setup here, but it's all for farming the mob drops for the least amount of effort. In my defense, nothing can be built touching the altar, so it does need to float. All we do is sit here, add in 1 of each item to the drawer, and it drops them. 8 basalt shards from 1 basalt. That's because we are using 10 looting upgrades, much better than our sword, and it's an instant mob removal. Now up here we have perfected the art of automating the processors using advanced inscribers. The best part is that it will auto eject back into the provider. Next to it we have a scalable automation for source gems. Amethyst is now working the same as Certus. They get sent upstairs to the chambers, and then we extract the gems to a locked drawer. We don't really need that many right now, but the future looks scary, so it's good to get it up and running. With the processors automated, we were able to begin putting together the sequenced assembly for the final computing cores. Lastly, we need thermal paste. All 4 powders into a mixer basin, add in some plastic, and that's plastic in the spout. I forgot to filter the liquids. Fluid drawer to the rescue. Second time lucky, thermal paste success. Core base on the belt. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have our first computing core. Overflowing, misaligned, and burnt. Oh dear, this has a high chance of failure. Great! Just what we need. Not only that, we are also going to need a tier 2 crafting table. They require luminescence, which I already hate. Superheating, energized glowstone, redstone, and gunpowder. At least the cake base is a default recipe. It's a bit overwhelming at this point, but we must power on. Luckily, that hobble fella made a tutorial on how to automate blaze cakes. We have eggs. Eggs for base. Base made of eggs. Next AI prompt. Interfluid encapsulator with lava for blaze cake. Magma crucible melts glowstone into energized glowstone. Heaty and add in the redstone and gunpowder and spin make good. Blocks of coal plus steel ingots give us the black iron ingots. That's the basic crafting table made. And that's the advanced. Yay! Using that, we can make 6 single board computers. I never want to do this again, but we must. I think this is the hardest that we have ever worked to unlock mechanism. Why? So we're going to need an assortment of machines like the enrichment chamber and of course the old metallurgic infuser. Ooh, that is sneaky. The cryo-cooled mainframe has a sneaky. We are going to need to automate the runing altar like we did in all the mods 9 to the sky. Good thing that we have modular routers, eh? This is the only problem with being on a server. Logging in each morning and we're greeted by a dozen piglins. Minecraft really would be more fun if they were aggressive. Just saying. So before bed, I did set up a little bit of mechanism automation. Luckily, the induction smelter can be used for enriching the items. Unluckily, they all require the thermal mob drops, which we really haven't automated yet. We are working towards signalum, lumium, and enderium. Enderium and signalum are automated, but lumium we are gonna do together. 1 block of gold and 1 blitz powder equals 1 enriched gold. That is for the induction smelter, a new infuser, and a pattern provider on top. Now we need to teach the lumium blend recipe. Complaint time. In EMI, there is only one type of tin dust. However, that tin dust is not the tin dust we need for lumium blend. What we're going to have to do is pulverize an ingot to get the right type of dust, then we can use that for recipes. Lastly, we'll pop an export bus on the front for the enriched gold, and we can set up the side config. The last recipe we need is turning 1 lumium blend into 1 lumium ingot. That's for the infuser. Quest complete. Woohoo! Oh no, why is this a thing? Basic control circuits need module expansion cards and they need finished PCBs. Can we request 1 basic circuit? Oh goodness me. Oh, we're exporting to this drawer to autocraft. We can just swap this over to a storage bus now. That's better. Phew. Yeah, we're probably going to want speed and energy upgrades for these very soon. Quest complete. After some more recipe teaching, we have a cryothium crystal. The full clip is on the second channel if you want to see that pain. That's going to turn into gelic cryothium, which I've not seen that name for a few years. And finally, a fluid encapsulator to turn it into cryothium cells. We're winning! That's 2 parts of chapter 5 complete. And we are well on the way to the mainframe. We just need to go through Britannia, and for some weird reason also through better reactors. That is because we need an unhealthy amount of cyanite, and this tiny little fella here is far too slow. However, I got mods all mixed up together and it turns out 5x5 is the largest we can have. So that's 20 minutes I'll never get back. Guess this can go bye-byes and get replaced by another baby one. I'm curious, can we speed this up using soul overclockers? A cool new mod made by the pack developer. Think balanced watcher flowing time, for accelerating only what's directly above it. We'll place it on the center, give it some power, and no, it does not work on the reactor. Sad times, it's just gonna be slow. We need 1000 millibuckets of waste to make 1 cyanite, and we generate 0.1 millibuckets per tick. That's fine, I've got some really exploitative uses for this later, so stay tuned to see that. Okay, so it's been 2 days since I last recorded anything. Let's see how we're getting on with cyanite. I set up the reprocessor to turn the cyanite into plutonium. So while we're here, let's add in some more cyanite and it can start doing its thing. Again, somewhat slow. I did teach the recipes for the higher tier reactor, but it's using the wrong version of uranium, so I'd have to go change all the recipes, and I'm just tired of doing that now. Let's grab some plutonium and complete the quest. That means that the very last thing that we need for cryo-cooled mainframes is Botania. Ooh, but real quick, I forgot to mention that some of our mechanism machines are now elite factories. The only way to do that is through installers. We could go for ultimate, but I don't have the patience right now to automate the atomic alloys. The reason you want to upgrade them though is because they can process multiple items at a time. Also, I finally tidied up the house. Yay, my mother's proud of me. More impressively, we are no longer using sophisticated barrels as storage, and instead we are opting for a fully digital storage. But the reason we're in here is we have a pattern set up for these single board computers. Upon request, it's going to put the items into this barrel, where we can then manually craft the boards. It's mostly for item management. Say we request 10, we don't need to search for the items to make 10 of them, instead AE2 will do it for us. 1 red, 2 brown, 1 light grey, and a seed. That's the Endoflame. Mana pool, Endoflame, mana spreader, and an advanced demagnetizer. Feed the Endoflame some coal, and it'll generate a baby amount of mana. Well, it will if we connect the flame to the spreader. Whoopsies. Time in a bottle will speed this fella up substantially, but overall, Botania mana generation is slow, and I think it's by design. We'll convert 1 diamond into a mana diamond to make ourselves a runic altar. I really don't want to manually craft runes, so we are definitely gonna automate it. Time to hobble something together. I hobble something together. It's messy, but it works. This is the exact same runic altar automation done in all the mods 9. Here is what a pattern looks like for this mod pack if you want to use this design yourself. We request, it puts the items on the altar, craft complete. The only thing not automated right now is mana, because I've had an idea of how to exploit something perfectly balanced. Now for the Ars Nouveau side of things, we need to turn source gems into water and earth essence. I did try out the agronomic source link for generating mana, but it sucks, so we're gonna do something else later. Then of course the imbuement chamber was just automated using modular routers. So with more recipes taught, we can request 1 cryo-cooled mainframe. Ooh, the barrel has items. My friends, this is our first of what I assume are going to be many cryo-cooled mainframes. And that sound is well deserved because that is another chapter completed. I guess we need to get into some industrial foregoing. But first, let's go ahead and choose the creation of these 2 Ars essences. For that, we are going to be using the Soul Overclocker. Imbuement chamber on top, we'll be able to remove the need to generate source. Of course, we'll use the modular routers for moving items since it's just such a strong logistics mod. We can use the solar tuner to increase how much tickle acceleration the chambers are getting, keeping in mind that at the moment we have a max boost to 64 shared across all overclockers. Oh, and I did decide to automate all 4 Ars Nouveau essences, just in case we need the other 2 later. We have been hurt by hidden recipes in the past, so it's good to be cautious. So why don't I next work out how to use these formation planes to place down acacial logs so we can generate some latex. All that's important is that they only place new items that enter the system. We can do that with a subnet. So we use a quartz fiber on the cable for the planes, then we have an ME interface connected to the main network requesting the oak logs, which we're then import into the plane network. On either side of those logs we've got some fluid extractors, siphoning out all of the latex. The latex goes into a buffer tank, and that buffer tank goes 2 ways. Firstly to a tank for AE2 to access for auto crafting, and secondly to a latex processing unit. That makes tiny dry rubber which we pipe over to a crafter to make dry rubber. Finally, that heads off to an energized smelter to make rubberized plastic. Using that plastic, we were able to automate the dissolution chambers. Just remember to push the finished items back into the pattern provider. Thanks to that, everything now has speed, efficiency, and processing upgrades. For now, that's all we needed from industrial foregoing, as we're not quite ready to go for the mob duplicator. We also now have more rune recipes taught, as the perfectly balanced has been exploited with these energizeras. These generate mana from nearby power, meaning that it's a fuelless setup. Due to that, they are generally very slow. However, of course, we can accelerate items such as this floating energizera using the Soul Overclocker. We are forcing this one flower to be 24 times faster than default, since any more than that and the mana spreader just can't keep up. The rest of this stuff is automation of mana diamonds, pearls and dust. The idea is that we will add 1 diamond into this barrel, and then it'll get round robin to one of these open crates that'll drop it into the mana pool. That way we can use 3 mana pools to craft with instead of 1. We then just filtered pick up the mana items and send them back to the system. And it's gonna work provided we don't request like 2000 mana items in one go. So we have now finally connected the mob farm to the AE2 system. That way we now have access to every mob drop in this backpack. The main reason though is we had to set up the mob factory to farm pink slime for automating those machine frames. And what I'm hoping we can do now is request 1 advanced machine frame. We can! What about the mob duplicator? Ta-da! We can indeed. That is chapter 5 complete. For chapter 4b we just need the golem charm. Even though it's optional, we do need to do it for 100%. For chapter 4a we need the auto crafting table, but that needs nether stars. I did spend some time hunting wither skulls with literally no luck, so we're going to be making them with mechanisms soon. For now though, we have our duplicator, where we put in a captured mob and supply essence to spawn a duplicate of that mob. I think we need 3 of these in total, so that means we're going to need 3 mob imprisonment tools, 1 for each of the thermal mobs. And to dispatch of the mobs, we are going to use the mob crusher. So let me hobble together some more mob farms and let's see what happens. This will work. We have a double mob farm here generating essence. That essence is what we are using to power our 3rd mob farm for our mob duplicators. Though since we're not generating a ton of essence, we are doing round robin again just to make sure the essence is shared equally between the basalts, blizz and blaze. Again, using a mob crusher, we are using the looting function on this one to get more drops. And to keep things simple, we just send the drops to the original backpack since it's already hooked up to the system. Look! We have skeleton skulls, which we will use to make wither skulls very soon. We're also going to need dark essence, which is more Britannia. Elven trading to be more specific. We'll also need shadow essence, which is made from enriched carbon, basal's powder and liquefied sauce. Currently have no idea how to make liquefied sauce, so that's going to be fun to work out. The most frustrating part is that everything from this tier of endgame is going to need a superheated blaze burner, like a lot of it. So much for using less create mod. In our hideaway, we now have even more crafting CPUs for all of that micro crafting, and we are now running a niotic reactor. The only reason that we hadn't done that before is we needed so many blaze rods. End game. We have gotten ourselves the cryo-cooled mainframe, and it asks us how much of our progression towards this point is automated. Well, other than needing nether stars, I'd say that we are now pretty much fully automated to this point. How's the account balance? 182 million, but we're not really set up for selling right now. Have we decorated our base a little? Yes, specifically a little. Left enough space to expand? We have so much space to expand into. Power production. Are you just scraping by or do you have some breathing room? I'd say we've got some breathing room. For this final chapter, you will not only need to build more automation lines, they're also generally larger, slower, more expensive and more power consuming. This will truly test your ability to automate stuff at a large scale, as trying to manually handcraft will be exhausting, though you're welcome to try. Yeah, we're not going to be microcrafting by hand. So big factory automation it is. The first step is this creational catalyst, which I've gone ahead and set up on some bedrock to generate dense rocks. That's getting sent to an ender drawer, which is linked to a drawer on our network, so we don't need to run a cable to bedrock. We drop those into mana to make mana imbued denser rocks. Terra Steel, why? Fine, hopefully this isn't going to be needed for automation. That is one Terra Steel quest complete. For liquefied source, we need a source condenser. Now we just need to work out a cheesy way to generate source. More on that soon. This bit isn't a surprise. We knew we needed elven trading. That's the portal made, so we can now make the pixie dust at least. Next we take the mana infused denser rock and pop it over onto the natural altar. That converts into an aura imbued denser rock. Could probably automate this with a simple pattern provider. The aura imbued denser rock goes into an imbuement chamber to make primordial stones. Oh dear. Next we need to superheat that with a dragon soul and and liquid ghosts, which we get from the bottle and cork in the nether. There's also a bottle from the end, so that does mean that we're actually going to need to go to the end and deal with the dragon. But for now, liquefied sauce. Let me see if this cheesy method will work, and I will show you how you can cheese it yourself. Oh, it works! Let me show you how all of this works because it's really quite fun. To make liquefied sauce, we need an actual sauce generation sent into the sauce condenser. Normally we go for the slow agronomic sauce link or occasionally the volcanic one. Instead, we are going to be using the alchemical sauce link, which consumes potions. So we start with an alchemical infuser from thermal and we use a sink to give that infinite water. If we simulate piping in some nether wart, this machine will then make an awkward potion. We can then pipe that into a second alchemical infuser, and again adding in some sugar which we get from our mob farm, it'll turn into a potion of swiftness. We can then pipe it to a final machine to add redstone, which will mean that when finally turned to sauce, we will get even more from a single potion. The final potion step is to send it to a fluid encapsulator with a glass bottle to make the potion. We sent the bottle of potion into a modular router with an activation module on it set to right click. That is right-clicking the potion of Swifties onto a potion jar. Fun story! It took me a very long time to work this bit out because it turns out potions are not technically a fluid. So all fluid movers do not work. Fluid pipes don't even connect to the potion jar. Who knew? But the jar fills up with potion and is consumed by the alchemical sauce link. That sauce goes into a buffer sauce jar and is consumed by the sauce condenser, giving us liquefied sauce. Moving on. To automate blaze cakes, you need netherrack. Turns out that is nice and easy to automate with the Material Stoneworks factory. It's super quick since we do have infinite water and lava. So I guess we'd better work towards mass production of superheated blaze burners. However, the comparator system won't work this time as it doesn't detect when superheating is finished. I don't think it would continually consume blaze cakes if left on, but it's better for performance not having the hands constantly moving. The signal strength does change depending on heat level, but that would be messy. There's got to be an elegant solution. Maybe a timer of sorts. There was indeed an elegant and expandable solution, and it was using a timer instead of a comparator. We start with a timer from RF Tools, set to 3200 ticks or 160 seconds. That goes into a repeater to extend that pulse to 2 ticks. When it pulses this redstone torch, it'll send a signal through this redstone link and over to its companion connected to a large expandable redstone line. The repeaters face into deployers, which are locked by default, but once pulsed, they will do a single operation of deploying a blaze cake. So let me show you how we make refined mixture. On top we have an import bus that is set to pull out only the mixture. Very important. Let's put in a request. Everything is sent via the pattern provider, which is very nice. A quick spin and the mixture is sent back into the system. This means that we can now automate luminescence the same way. We are going to need to automate energized glowstone, and the easiest way to automate glowstone is to use these glimmer cap spores. It's very cheap to make your first one, and it can be smelted into a glowstone. It's also a plant, so you can duplicate it with the phytogenic insulator. Easy. Alright, it is time to finally say goodbye to our Steam jetpack and upgrade to one based on RF. One netherite jetpack, and thanks to wireless charging, it'll never run out of juice. We are fast, but more importantly, we have infinite hovering abilities. So I think the essence of light is the next to do, so that means automating the Elven Gateway. We can make one with what we have in stock for now, quest complete. Ooh, to enrich this though, we need the Dark Essence, which is honestly fine as the Shadow Essence is a thing that we already have. It is just more recipe teaching. How exciting. Same again, we will just craft one for the quest and quest complete. Now we need a magic infuser infusing the light essence over dark essence and then vice versa. So bizarre. This looks like a mess, and that's because it is. There was no reason our Britannia setup needed to be this compact. It just kinda happened by accident. I guess it's mostly so we can use the initial exploited mana generator without needing to make another. For automating the Elven portal, we are just using a simple dropper system. Items go into the dropper, go through the portal, come back as a traded item, and then go back into the system. We do now have the weird infuser for light and dark essence, automated in the same way as all other infusers are. But there's no avoiding it. We now need to get ourselves some bottled darkness, bottled ghosts, and bottled sunshine automated. Sunlight we'll do in the overworld, ghosts in the nether, however darkness needs to be done in the end. I guess we gotta get this done. It is done. So somewhere in the end, we need to set up some automation to do this. However, we also need to generate aura so that the world doesn't die or something, I don't know. So I've marked out a chunk so it should be easier to work out the chunk loading since we need this running when we're not here. I am struggling to work this out, so I'm going to take a break and hopefully come back with a set fresh of eyes. We need a ton of living wood, so I've made a floating pure daisy and it's been sped up with a soul overclocker. It's much more bearable at this speed. The fresh eyes definitely helped, as I think this system should work, so now I can explain it a little bit better. There is just a little hiccup that I'll talk about in just a moment. So we are moving items cross-dimensionally using the ender drawers. This one is for cork bottles. In each dimension they go into a dispenser and pick up said air. They are then caught by a second ender drawer and head over to this disassembler. The bottles feed onto an item drain that'll give us the liquids that we need for the next big crafts. This second one here is for the end, and this is the hiccup. We need to update the mod pack, which is a terrifying concept this close to completion. It would be devastating if everything broke now, but honestly there is nothing we can do as we can't progress any further due to a bug being patched. Because bottled darkness, when drained, also turns into liquid sunshine, and it's fixed in the next version. What a pain, especially since the pack is on a server. Well, I guess there's nothing left to do now except update the mod pack. Wish me luck. We have liquid ghosts and the update was mostly a success. Yay. The end is now up and running and I went ahead and added that swampy thing to regenerate the aura, and of course the exact same system in the nether. Nice. The next step is to make some perfect gems. So we have 4 patterns in one induction smelter and 4 in another. They require hardened gems and well, we get those randomly from crushing down those primordial stones. We do now have the ability to request each level of primordial stone, so that's good I guess. But that's what we're gonna set up here. Real quick, edit the hobble again. I realized that I never explained where I got those 3 primordial stones from. They are made by combining that prismatic stone we made earlier with those 3 liquids that we got from the bottle and cork. Okay, back to the show. So let's add each of the stones to their own export bus, each with a crafting card inside. Not sure if this is going to work in the long run, as the initial stone isn't that quick to make. The requests have gone in, and I'll need to keep an eye on this for a while to see what our bottlenecks are. It's probably energized glowstone though. It's gotta be. But it looks like we are already starting to get some of the hardened gems. There's 8 in total that we need, so now it is a waiting game. With those, we need to upgrade them into perfect metals. Well, that was annoying. Over here, we had a drawer with all of our copper in. Well, after updating the mod pack, there seems to be some unification issue, and it converted all of our copper ingots into the wrong type of nuggets. What on earth are we supposed to do with 663,000 copper nuggets? Ah dear, it turns out there's more than 8 gems that we can get. We just only need 8 of them. That's fine, we can just add more drawers into this micro network. No biggie. So I'm just gonna sit and watch this for a bit now and try and fix any bottlenecks that we may have. I'll see you in a bit. Updating the pack was the worst decision ever. Steel broke. Pretty much every recipe using the wrong variant of ingot broke. Isn't that what Ordict is supposed to prevent? Other than that, I'm still annoyed at something, so it's time for a baby little rant. It is 3 AM on a Saturday night, and we were supposed to finish this pack tomorrow, ready for busy real life time on Monday. Let's take a look at Silkstrom. It needs a nether star. That means that we need to automate wither skulls and the removal of withers. That's fine, we can use deployers like we did in Arcane Engineering. Nope. In order to get 100% completion, we are forced to make the Wither Builder, which annoyingly needs the Supreme Machine Frames. That means harvesting ether gas using fluid drills above a wither. We are being forced to farm 135 millibuckets of ether gas when there were easier options. It is never needed again after this. It's just added a few pointless extra hours onto endgame, and you know how I feel about endgame fluff. But it's fine, we will get it done, we always do. For the stones, we are just missing iron and we can move on to the next steps. We've added even more superheating basins because there's even more superheating to do very soon. It didn't help that all of the primordial stones are made via superheating as well. Also, I can't help but notice that they're not running full time, so it looks like there's more bottlenecks to find. Looks like it's the imbuement chamber this time, so let me wait for this iron gem and we can move on to the next steps. Hey buddy, would you like to cry for us so we can catch a tear? 3 tears. I am so sorry you were so sad. We need that for the stasis chamber so we can hold the wither. Oh, and we're now up to over 1 million copper nuggets as our other copper box, which we had as automation, is also converted over. Also, when teaching a recipe that uses 2 of the same item like copper, which has multiple variation, it only adds 1 to the recipe and it keeps messing me up. I have no idea if it's EMI breaking it or the pack, but it is super frustrating. Overnight, we got a comfortable amount of hardened gems, enough that we were able to craft up the perfect gems. Over here we have a system that I promised for duplicating skystone. If we take some skystone and send it through crushing wheels, we get either 1 or 2 skystone dust. That gets smelted back into skystone. We have a pipe upgrade here that sends it to the furthest first to replenish the system, and any bonus ones we are keeping for making the computer cores. Now, since we don't want to make thousands of these and waste our 82 processors, we are using an ME level emitter, counting how many core bases we have. If it's more than 50, it's going to send a redstone signal to our export bus next to it, telling it to stop exporting. We might have crafted far too many before I realized I was doing it wrong. Looking ahead, we are going to need chromatic compound, which is more superheating with glowing ingots. Glowing ingots are made from pouring lava over brass, so that's an easy but slow one as the spout does 1 item per second, which is why I'm glad I set this up earlier for us. It also needs polished rose quartz, which is where I'm happy to see mechanism for a change. This is a great example of what I was talking about earlier. We need 32 silver blocks, there's 3 types of silver block, and the recipe only puts in 1. Oh, and it's the wrong type of silver, so I've now got to go and change that pattern. It really does suck to be me sometimes. The final perfect gem, finally. Alright, stasis chamber time so we can capture a tiny amount of ether gas from a wither. That's the wither, and seconds later we already have all of the ether gas that we need. Totally pointless. Now we can request the supreme machine frame, and I guess we'll set up the mob crusher on this box we already have for the wither. Let him explode so we can collect his star, and we'll use that to make the wither builder. And we are going to use it since we were forced to make it. We just need to export wither skulls and soul sand into it, and set up a timer so it doesn't break. Okay, back to teaching recipes. Shadow steel and refined radiance, done and done. Oh, we need even more superheated mixers. Multiplied, silkstrom, and durasteel. Yowza! 8 shadow steel for durasteel, so 128 chromatic compound each. That's insane! So again, let me get some more mixers added, and maybe add a few extra to make even more chromatic compound. Oh, and I should probably actually finish automating the wither. I'll see you soon, I hope. Alrighty then. With the nether stars, we were finally able to upgrade to automated elite crafting tables. We've got 1 for the blue ingot, which I forget its name, I think it's crystal time? I don't know. 1 for single board computers, 1 for cryo-cooled mainframes, and 1 for the final craft of the game, the sentient mainframe. Now I did notice that the multiply ingot needs dragon's breath, so we're going to need to find a way to automate that soon. Looks like it's the nature's altar with bottled darkness. This looks ridiculous. Hopefully no more. Please no more. Silkstrom is fully automated. Durasteel is fully automated. And after teaching more recipes like refined obsidian ingots and dragon's breath, multiply is fully automated. That is everything for the infinity catalyst. Teach the recipe to the auto table, which means we will need 1 more auto table in a moment for the mainframe. Out of curiosity, what are we missing for that sentient mainframe? We need to automate sturdy sheets and a bigger buffer tank for liquefied source. And neutronium neutronium gears the slowest thing in the whole mod pack. We are a lot closer than I thought though, so that's a win. To make liquid neutronium, we need to put dense matter solution into a thermopneumatic processing plant. The solution is made in a fluid combiner with some molten metals. And this is what that looks like. We start with a fluid combiner which needs osmium, gold and lead as a liquid. Magma Crucible enters the chat. Thankfully nice and easy. That makes the dense matter solution which heads along to the thermo plant. That requires 2000 degrees of heat and at least 7 bars of pressure. For that we are using a heated blaze burner with lava and an advanced air compressor burning coal. The neutronium liquid is sent into a blast chiller with a gear mold to make the neutronium gears. And the fluid combiner is incredibly slow and is killing our speeds. So again we're going to exploit the soul overclocker as much as possible for this. And now the thermo plant is too slow. Great! 100 millibuckets of matter solution makes 2 millibuckets of neutronium liquid. Ouch! And each gear takes 400 millibuckets of liquid to make. Double ouch! So let me see if I can brute force at least 4 neutronium gears so we can craft the final craft. That's 2, quest complete, we just need 2 more. Oh, and that's the sturdy sheets automated, and with the final 2 gears we should be able to request a sentient mainframe. 1200 rose quartz. That's a bit excessive, right? It's now starting on the refined radiance. I think it's done. It is. Let's teach the recipe to the auto table and my friends, we have ourselves our first sentient mainframe. Technically, that's mod pack complete. However, there is one challenge I wouldn't mind having a go at, and that's to be able to request as many of any item from any tier that we want. To complete this challenge, you need to be able to request as many mechanisms as you want from your system, and have it be crafted from scratch. The idea being that we should be able to request say 50 of these endgame mainframes, and without any manual intervention, it should just get made for us. Obviously, our biggest flaw in that is the neutronium gears. So I think for this, I'm going to scale this up just a little bit and maybe do a little bit of AFK to try and get a stockpile of gears for this challenge. We have 4.4 million basic mechanisms in stock, 54k compressed mechanisms, 22k electronic components, 19k finished PCBs. From that point things are made as needed, but there's a fair few dollars already in storage. Oh, living rock! Technically not automated. And we just need to pipe over the cyanide to make the plutonium. A literal pipe it seems is what we need for that. Sometimes the jank way is the best way. And using modular routers, we can automate living rock nice and easy. So while we wait for those neutronium gears, let's request the 50 cryo-cooled mainframes ready for the massive final craft. We have everything here fully automated, so I'm counting that towards the challenge. So we're waiting on gears. I guess I'll see you when we have around 200 of them. Rose quartz? Check. Nether quartz? Check. Mana generation I forgot to add to the runes earlier? Check. Insane amounts of bottled sundark ghostness? Check. Insane amounts of liquefied source? Check. Now the coal over here was draining far too quickly, so we've upgraded to using an advanced liquid compressor with the lava instead. And we've doubled up on the thermo plants because slow. That's given us 250 neutronium gears. Over here I did a whoopsies and I put a storage downgrade in all of them. Don't do that. It's very silly. And yes, of course, you can guess, there were more recipe conflicts that appeared because of the update. So I spent a fair few hours in fault finding mode. So frustrating. Ended up working through nearly every single pattern to make sure it was correct. Some were, most weren't. So in just a moment, we're about to request as many sentient mainframes as we want before we finally make our $1 billion. Before we do, I just want to thank you so much for watching. Please consider subscribing and checking out the playlist down below for all of the other mod packs completed in one video. You could even share this video with some friends, post it on Discord or Reddit, or even send it to your nan on Facebook. Every share helps. 50 sentient mainframes should be automatically made now with zero intervention. We could do more than this, it just means more AFK time, so this is a win, and I would say that is challenge complete. I've had a moderate amount of fun playing this mod pack, however it would have been so much better without that Ordict issue that made me really want to just quit. From start to end, it has been a recurring issue finding the right version of an item, but stick around till the end of the video for my official hobble review. While that crafts, let's check the quest. Mechanical age, complete. Pneumatic age, complete. Electrical age, complete. Digital age, complete. Living age, ooh, golem friend. Complete. Industrial age, complete. Endgame, complete. That is 100% of Forever Factory completed. Ah, crafting terminal, know why you ruined my day. There is nothing else. Please be nothing else. There's nothing else. Finally 100% complete. Now we just gotta wait for that craft to complete and we can do one big sale to make our $1 billion. I will see you very soon and we'll become a very wealthy hobble. 51 sentient mainframes from 405 million to over $1 billion. You can't be mad about the video title now. So why don't I hand you over now to the hobble review and let's see together what score this mod pack ends up with. Hobble's review. It took me 26 real world days to complete this to 100%, 6 days longer than all the mods 9 to the sky, and we didn't even decorate as much. Difficulty gets 2 stars. There's nothing really too technical to work through, and once you work out the pneumatic craft automation, you're pretty much sorted for the pack. Plus, you can very easily make $1 billion quite quickly after automating chapter 1 just by AFKing. Progression gets 4 stars. The quests do a reasonable job at guiding you through the mod pack, but better technology being unlocked as you progress is a fantastic feature. Integration gets 3 stars. The mods integrate quite well together, and the score would have been a little bit higher if more mods were added instead of using all of that superheating. Repetition gets 4 stars. As mentioned and complained about, there is a lot of recipe teaching for the same few machines, so it is quite repetitive, hence the 4 stars. Endgame gets 2 stars. Endgame is endgame. I did remove a star for needing to do that wither builder stuff, but overall there's not really too much to say about endgame. Innovation gets 4 stars. The introduction of currency instead of EMC is fantastic, but it is far too generous in this mod pack. I also really enjoyed the Soul Overclockers mod, and I can't wait to use that again in other packs. Enjoyment gets 2 stars. I was torn on this one, as overall the pack is quite enjoyable, but with the performance issues combined with the recipes always breaking, it made me want to quit. And time gets 2 stars. 26 days is slightly more than I would like to spend on a mod pack, but it honestly would have been done a lot quicker if I didn't have to go back and fix everything. But that brings the current hobble score to a respectable 48%. Now of course the algorithm is always changing for this mod pack rating system, so if the score does change it will be posted again down in the description. Now what would I like to change about this mod pack to make my experience better? Reduce the price of the basic mechanisms, because making 8 at a time makes you very rich very quickly. It kinda defeats the point of having currency in the first place. But that is it from me, my friends. Remember to share this video and I will see you in the next one.